Legionaries. Before a name like CÆSAR could make a continent tremble, Rome was already weary. The Republic, proud of its laws, offices, and civic dignity, bore cracks hidden beneath marble. In the forum, senators debated principles. In back rooms, they traded debts. Bread and games numbed the crowd, but they healed nothing. Look to the generations before him, the Gracchi, who fought for land for the dispossessed and were broken between senatorial pride and popular fury. Marius, who reforged the army and turned the poor into soldiers. Sulla, who returned with lists of the condemned and proved that a Roman army could march on Rome itself. From these wounds, poison slowly seeped into the veins of the Republic. In the streets, clients and creditors, men owed favors to senators. Senators owed interest to knights, and the provinces paid the price. Tax collectors squeezed cities like grapes. Governors arrived poor and departed rich. Every victory bred new greed. Every province new factions in Rome competing for spoils, honor, and amnesty. The rules remained, but the spirit ebbed. Consulships became bargains. Triumphs campaign posters, trials weapons. The language of the Republic stayed elegant, its heartbeat faltered. Those who loved the people were called populares. Those who defended the Senate, optimates. Each claimed to save Rome. Each erased opponents when chance allowed. In the shadow of marble rose a hunger for safety, for order, for one voice that would decide instead of deliberate. The markets hummed, temples filled, yet honest citizens barred their doors early. Armed gangs on the steps of basilicas were no scandal anymore, merely yesterday's news. Ask not why one man could rise, ask why no one stopped him. The city longed for peace, for a judge above the judges. Rome, once free, began to dream of a shepherd. Into this silence stepped Gaius Julius Caesar, not as a comet, but as a calculated star. He was no accident of war. He was the product of a system that rewarded talent and consumed scruple. Of patrician blood, burdened by debt and sharpened by ambition, gifted with memory, speech, and patience, he learned early. Votes are won by names, names by deeds, deeds by risk. He wore two faces, not from deceit, but from insight. One for the crowd that loved stories, one for the curia that loved numbers. He could charm both. He understood that Rome was ruled not only by law, but by hope. He promised, without words, order without humiliation, greatness without tyranny, triumph without civil war. Who would oppose such a dream? Yet before he conquered Gaul or saw the Rubicon, the Republic already stood in twilight. Elections that devoured fortunes, judges for hire, tribunes who performed for applause, veterans demanding land, slaves dreaming of revolt, nobles decaying, knights commanding wealth. Tension everywhere, release nowhere, save in the street brawls that Rome called noise and forgot. The capital was no longer measure but market. Every vote had a price, every law an author. The Senate held men of rank, and rank held their fear and their accounts. Corruption was fought with exceptions, fires with oil. When Catiline's name thundered through the streets, Cicero's tongue won the day. But the poison stayed in the blood. Hear this from Romulus. States rarely die by enemies, they die of exhaustion, of crises half solved until they pile up like sediment. The late Republic was a splendid structure with failing foundations. Outwardly it gleamed, within cracks worked at the beams. Caesar saw those cracks and saw paths through them. In alliances with Pompey and Crassus, he bypassed gridlock. As consul, he learned how to turn noise into consent. In Gaul, he discovered that glory does not debate, it commands. But that is another tale. For now, stay with the question, How did the quarrel of many become the yearning for one? Because rules without trust become chains. Freedom without order becomes fear. And a city that argues all night over procedure wakes hungry for decision. Rome hungered, and he who feeds hunger is loved until the bill arrives. On the hills, old families guarded prestige. In the Subura, leaders like Clodius drilled their mobs in clubs and slogans. Events in the Senate required escort. Speeches required bodyguards. The law survived, yet respect for it was scarcer than grain in a lean year. When you hear footsteps rolling across the Forum, you hear more than sandals on stone. You hear generations wrestling with Rome and draining its strength. The courage of fathers became the cynicism of sons. The virtue of office turned into the craft of career. And where honor thins, strong men become arguments. Daily life whispered what historians later shouted. Farmers left their fields as wars lengthened and homecoming grew uncertain. In the city, the insulae rose higher, the alleys narrower, the hopes louder. Grain prices wavered, alms kept the crowd quiet. Until the next election, the games anesthetized, but morning brought debts, noon clients, evening violence. The Republic was not only corrupt, it was complicated. Its procedures were masterpieces and escape routes alike. Whoever wished to block power could find law. Whoever wished to bend law could find reason. Every grand project became a labyrinth. Rome did not merely need heroes. It needed someone who walked through walls. The hour was ripe, not for a tyrant by whim, but for an administrator of inevitability. A man to speak the price all knew, but none would pay. An end to endless vetoes, discipline even for the noble. Order and force before order required legions. Understand me well. In this prologue, we glorify no man. We define the vacuum. Caesar did not oppose Rome. He entered its vacancy. He promised what all promised, yet he delivered. Where others ritualized, he acted. Where others waited, he arrived first. And he gathered loyalties, not applause, a currency far stronger than cheers. Thus, our chronicle begins, not with trumpets or daggers, but with a sound that haunts every great turning, the sigh of a weary order. The Republic breathed shallowly. One deep breath could save or shatter it. We shall see Caesar draw that breath, in his rise through offices and alliances, in the thunder over Gaul, in the night by the Rubicon, in the decrees of the dictator, and in the whisper of the Ides of March. But before we go there, let this truth stand. No empire is born in a day, yet on days like these, time accelerates. A people that crave stability summon those who enforce it, and when stability arrives, few ask what it will cost tomorrow. Rome wished to fear tomorrow no longer, so it demanded decision today. Caesar heard that demand and rehearsed the answer. When I close my eyes, I still hear the voices of the Forum, jurists weaving clauses, patricians counting names, tribunes rousing crowds. Above them all hung the question none dared voice. Who carries responsibility when everyone has authority? History answered with a man. We call him Caesar, but in truth, he was also a mirror. Those who hated him saw their fear of impotence. Those who loved him saw their hope for order without humiliation. Both were true, and together they set Rome in motion. This is the beginning, not a verdict but a survey of the ground our protagonist will march upon. The paths are known, the stones familiar. Debt, honor, clientele, provinces, trials, glory. Upon them one man will walk faster than all others, and the city will marvel until it trembles. Legionaries, prepare yourselves. In part 2, we follow the young Caesar through debt and divinity, speeches and risks, to the threshold of glory. We shall study his tools, eloquence, memory, favor, patience, and we shall ask whether the cure already contained the fever. For now, the prologue ends. Rome stands still for one heartbeat, long enough for a single step to echo. And remember, names like Pompey, Crassus, and Cato were more than men. They were proposals. One offered safety through victory, another through wealth, the third through law. Yet Rome desired all at once and found it nowhere. In that void, loyalty became currency. Caesar paid generously and earned interest in hearts. Could the Republic have renewed itself without him? Perhaps. But moderation requires patience, and patience was spent. So this prologue tells not of a criminal, but of an opportunity that called for one.